This is the Pal Talk News Network.
The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of paltalk.com, AVM Software, or its advertisers.
My microphone is stuck on, so you guys could hear me swallowing my iced tea. Welcome to News Talk Online on the Pal Talk News Network. News Talk Online is a production of paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users, on demand on iTunes and on YouTube, and on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you're encouraged to post your comments, whether you agree with yours truly or not. No retribution. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. I welcome you to the show. And for those of you who are watching on Blip TV or iTunes or YouTube or CRN Digital Talk Radio or one of our many fine affiliate sites on the internet, if you go to paltalknewsnetwork.com and click on the Watch Live Now button, you will be magically transported into our virtual auditorium here on paltalk.com, and you'll have your opportunity to speak about this and other very important issues. Obviously, the issue of the day is the Israeli Defense Forces interdiction of 6 ships heading to the Gaza, they say with humanitarian supplies, in defiance of the blockade. And as we all know now, and much of it was videotaped, there was gunfire that erupted on at least one or perhaps 2 of the ships, and 10 people are dead, many of them from Turkey. And this has really strained relationships, the relationship in particular between Turkey and Israel. And they have maintained fairly friendly relationships. That seems to be really strained now as a result of this. The United Nations Security Council met in emergency session today to discuss this issue. We carry that live for you here on the Pal Talk News Network. Now, I recognize that this is a very volatile and emotional subject. I just ask that you follow our ground rules, and that is no personal attacks on one another, and no attacks on religions. And I think we'll just get along just fine. But that's the way we roll here on the Pal Talk News Network. I want to go to Boaz Frankel first, because I know that he's going to articulate one viewpoint, and then our next caller up in queue, Mike from California, is going to articulate another. And maybe we can get some dialogue going between the three of us to get this started. Boaz, let's just look at the facts of this to begin with. The blockade of the Gaza has been roundly criticized by those who believe that humanitarian aid has not been permitted to get into the Gaza by the Israelis. Is that a fair criticism of the Israelis, this predating what happened today?
Well, thank you, Gary, for having me. Well, it is not fair, and I will tell you why. If it was only humanitarian aid, then yes, it would be let through. The problem that we're having in the last few years of supplies getting into the Gaza Strip is that a lot of this humanitarian aid comes in the form of rifles, it comes in the form of rockets, in the form of anti-tank grenades and other arms that the Israeli government does not want in the Gaza Strip. Now, it is a known fact that in the Gaza Strip there's a very large arsenal of arms that have been smuggled in through tunnels, through Egypt, and through the sea, through different ships that have managed to slip by or before the blockade had occurred. And this particular ship that tried to get through defied the Israeli Coast Guard and tried to force its way through. The Israeli Coast Guard stopped them and boarded them. And as soon as they boarded them, they were attacked. The soldiers that aborted that ship were attacked. They were all sorts of objects were thrown at them. As a matter of fact, one or two of the objects were, I mean, some of the objects that were used were knives, sticks, I mean, heavy sticks, knives, metal objects. Two Israeli soldiers were severely wounded by these objects. One actually got knocked off the top deck of the ship and fell down to the lower deck and was severely injured. At that, and of course, when the soldiers did board the ship, they were rushed by a crowd of people that actually managed to take some of the guns away from the Israeli soldiers and tried to use them against them. At that point, the Israeli soldiers opened fire because they had orders to defend themselves should their lives be in danger. At that point, their lives were in danger. They did open fire. 10 of the people that they opened fire on were killed, and about 30 were wounded. What occurred after that? The Israeli Coast Guard they managed to take over the ship. They towed the ship into the port of Ashdod, where the wounded were treated. The dead, of course, were taken away, and they're going to be returned to their families. The criticism in the United Nations is completely and out of proportion, obviously. The criticism by the pan-Arab countries that are criticizing Israel of attacking a unarmed ship is unjust, because it's foolish to run a military blockade when you know that if you try to and you attack soldiers that have orders to defend themselves, should their lives be in danger, they're going to fire back. If you attack them with knives, they're going to fire back. A knife is just as dangerous as a rifle. So that's basically the rundown of it, Gary. The Israeli government cannot allow for arms to be brought into the Gaza Strip, because we already know in the past that they have been used against Israeli cities, Jewish cities bordering the Gaza Strip. So that's the take on it right now, Gary.
Well, Mike in California, you heard what Boaz had to say. He believes that the blockade is justified because these so-called humanitarian missions are sometimes trying to sneak weapons into the Gaza. He says that the Israelis were attacked first and were only defending themselves, and he says that the criticism at the United Nations is out of proportion. What do you say about that, Mike?
Hello, thank you, Gary, and thank you for your comments, Boaz. I believe we were only following orders was the excuse offered at Nuremberg. To say that Israeli IDF were merely defending themselves against an unarmed humanitarian group and thereby justified in doing what they did, resulting in the deaths of, 10 people?